The following is a fan-based discussion. All properties discussed are property of Toei Inc., Bandai, Hasbro, and Super Productions.
Hello, everybody. Today, right now, at this moment in time, we're going to be talking about a Tokutalk. I don't know what's happening with me. Please send help. For just 69 cents a day, you could support this hot mess. Today, we're going to be talking about monster designs in Toku in some of our favorites.
I just want that to be a real commercial now. You remember those?
Sarah McLachlan?
I was gonna say like the Christian. I was gonna say the Christian Children's Fund. You remember those from when we were kids?
No.
Where it was just like it would just play Amazing Grace and like here's some horrible
African country.
I was gonna say children.
No, it's literally always some horrible African culture children.
It could have been
Poultry? That too.
That too.
It's like poultry and culture.
And then
together.
it's like and they die of diseases like measles.
Well, for just 50 cents a day.
For just 50 cents a day, here's
you
a picture
too
of
can
a child.
donate. You can donate a
You
ham
too
sandwich.
can be bathed in his blood.
Bathed in his blood. Bathed in his blood. This is all going to be an outtake now. This is all we're going to start over. I might probably put this at the end. I think I'm going to. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Tokutalk.
Hello.
Today, Wow. Okay. We are going to be talking about...
Okay.
No. We're going to be talking about monster designs.
Yes, we are.
Send help. Monster designs. They can do so much and or detract so much.
They can do so much or
show.
so little.
Yes. What are some of your favorites and how do you think that they have attributed to a show?
I think monster designs are at their best when they can stick to a theme throughout.
Agreed.
And whether that's something like Ninja, where we're all trying to be yokai, I like that. Or sometimes it's cool to just get weird with it and see where you can go.
I think, especially over the last couple of years, because they've gone to more basic, everyday monster designs on some of these. Zenkaiger sort of has like a base undersuit, but the head changes a lot.
Yeah.
Kirimager does the same thing, although they also change colors sometimes. I really appreciate how, at least in the past years, Sentai-wise, they've gone and, we're going to be sort of obvious as to what this is.
Sometimes.
Yeah, so sometimes it's more of a culture thing where we don't end up getting all the nuances and things of that nature. But I have definitely enjoyed, even though the undersuit might be basic, I've enjoyed what they've done with the various heads on them to make them differentiate from each other when you first see them. Although in some cases, and even in show, when they're just like, they have an orange, and I think it was like a Mikan or something. It's a Japanese fruit that I can't remember the name of. That they got confused because they thought it was the same thing, and it wasn't. So it had different effects each time. I've really loved and enjoyed more simpler ones. I think as time has gone along.
Because if we want to go back to like where it all started back in the 70s and whatnot, you look at monster designs back then, and it was just a dude in like a spandex onesie with a cape, and a big old mascot head.
Oh god, baseball common. I love baseball common.
Yes,
he's iconic.
We all do.
Yeah.
And then as time goes along, they get bulkier. They get a little more
intricate.
They get more intricate. They get more, for lack of a better word, monstrous.
Yeah.
It clearly is like it's not just a dude in a spandex onesie. Like it's a big raw monster
or
thing that you can see.
Doing something like a spandex onesie, like we can look at some of the foot soldiers here. Do you remember the ones from Changeman that had like those really weird, messed up faces, and like the yellow hair? They were all blue, and they had like slime coming off of them, and like the suits were sort of melted.
But it sounds.
Yeah, that was a weird time, but it looked good. It looked terrifying, and that's sort of what they were supposed to do, the Changeman foot soldiers. I really appreciated what they've done with some of them as we've gone along, although it does seem a little bit cyclical. Yep.
Jeez. That's freaky.
It does seem a little bit cyclical how we've gotten to where we are. Because as we just mentioned, baseball comment is just like a dude with a big helmet
with a big baseball head.
And we've gone back to that with Kira Major and Zenkaiger.
And Kira Major, I think, was a great way of getting, because Kira Major, as I said this in the review, it is a very back-to-basic show.
Yeah.
In a lot of regards, and one of them is its monster designs. We didn't try and make them we didn't try and make them these intricate creations, that a team of artists spent weeks working on. It's like, no, we picked like a motif for each character.
Yeah.
Whether that be speakers or whether that be whatever. And we pick a theme, we put all that design in the head, and then we just have the body, which is just like, usually it's just a dude. And it worked.
Yeah.
It worked.
Yeah.
In the context of the show, it worked, and in camera, it worked. It was goofy, but it's Sentai, it's Toku, it's always going to be a little goofy.
Yeah.
Sometimes a lot goofy.
That's
not a bad thing.
We spent a lot of time here on Sentai, but there are some in Rider that I really want to talk about as well. Specifically two of them. I want to talk about the Orphanox from Fies.
Okay.
And the Fangire from Kiva.
Okay.
They are some of the best monster designs in pretty much any Toku that I've seen personally. I will say
the Orphanox, correct me if I'm wrong, they were all like different shades of gray. It was all monochrome. And as a result, they were able to get very intricate with their design work.
Yeah.
That shows.
And it was just like, because of the fact that they went the way that they did, they're undead, so they're not supposed to be vibrant in the way that they look. I loved what they did with the suits. They went so hard and so into how well these suits are designed, how many bits and pieces there are on them, how the head looks, how the entire body looks in relation to everything else. It was they really went and just did what they did in that show, and I greatly appreciate it. I love I like a lot of the aesthetics in Fies to begin with. So the Orphanox just really, aesthetic-wise, took it over the top for me.
Right.
I love that simplicity in color scheme, but complexity in suit design. The Fangire, all that stained glass on the suits.
It's pretty, yes. I'll give you that.
And they're also very well designed. So it's just looking at those, it's gorgeous. I love it. It's weird because I really don't like either one of these shows. But the aesthetics...
You can appreciate things and things you don't like. It happens.
The aesthetics in them, though, are pretty quality and top tier. We talked about these foot soldiers ad nauseum. But the foot soldiers from Tokuuser are probably...
Oh, yeah. The kuros.
Yes. Those, the hats.
The hats. They always do like a little slide on the brim whenever they show up.
And that makes them so cool. I'm just like, all right, fine. Y'all are the best. What now?
I like them a lot.
What about yours? Do you have any ones outside of those that really pop out and stick out to you?
If we're talking, are we talking like just monsters or like the whole like shebang, like monsters, foot soldiers, everything?
Yeah, just
because the first one that jumps out, we talked about it already, but it's Kira Major. There is something about the simplicity of Kira Major, the fact that it doesn't come across as over designed. It's like just the right amount of like, we're gonna save money, but we're gonna spend it in the right ways.
Yeah,
and that's what Kira Major did for me. Whether that's like the foot soldiers, they have that that it's like brown, I believe, is what their base color is.
Yeah,
but like they stick out, and like they cast really good stunt actors who are able to highlight who are able to have good physicality and like highlight whatever movements were needed.
Yeah,
and again, it's that sticking to that one motif and just doing that one thing really well that I'm able to really appreciate.
Yeah.
Because on the opposite end of that would be something like Lupat, where it just looks like you took a bunch of random action figures, cut different parts off, and smashed them together.
I think
and that's what a lot of
I think the safes don't help there because it makes the suits more.
Yeah, it makes them a little bulkier, but it is a defining characteristic. So it's like you see the safe and you're like, oh, I know what that's from, but it's like I don't know what you are.
Yeah,
I look at a Kira Major monster or general or whatnot, and I look at it, and I'm like, oh, your lipstick, oh, your speakers, oh, you're a phone. Like, I know exactly what that is.
Weirdly enough, they did that in Die Ranger. You mentioned lipstick, and they had like the lipstick monster and the purse monster. Yeah. Because they were made of pretty much everyday objects. Go Busters did this so well with how they designed their monster suits. Just, make it out of something. And I love that. I thought that was great. That's just one of those things that I really appreciated. And I love the fact that since the monsters aren't the ones that grow, they also had to design the big mech and design it around that monster. They sort of had to do the same thing as in Kaiju, but it's really just, again, the head that changes on both the monster, because it is a base suit, and the big one, because it's just a base suit. How
about Monsters in Rider? Is there anything that really jumped? Because we look at Monsters in Rider, it's much more... They're all much more humanoid and less monstrous. Yeah. Because with Kamen Rider, I feel like it's always been humans have always been the ones that he's fighting against. Yeah. There might be, whether it's like an evil organization or, some sort of, monstrous being, they all at some point either take a human form or they are led by humans. Is one thing that I've noticed. It's like in Kamen Rider, man is usually the monster.
Yeah, I will say, one that sort of stick out to me, I'm not sure if it's exactly a negative or a positive, because I'm not the biggest fan of the monster designs, or really either one of these two shows. Both Kugi and Agito have pretty simplistic monster designs, but I think that's sort of supposed to juxtaposition of, these are really simplistic, but the actions that they do are really brutal. So I think it works sort of as a dichotomy of how, simplicity...
Something that doesn't look that threatening does in fact pose a big threat. Yeah. It's that juxtaposition.
Yeah. I love that. I think it's great. I think it's sad.
I would say one of the better examples of monster designs is W. Because again, we're taking... It's whether it's violence, bird, money, whatever, we have a theme that the Gaia memory is... Whoever injects, they inject it in, and you can instantly tell, like, oh, I understand what this is.
Except for violence, because sometimes they just take a word.
Honestly, the violence one I liked. It's the violence one is kind of just like a twisted monstrosity of just like metal and flesh, and I like that. It just looked like it was like just Tetsuo with a body hammer, but a Kamen Rider monster. Let's do this.
We do have the ones from Garo and Ultraman, of course. Ultraman is sort of weird because they use so many show.
Ultraman will either have the best or the worst, and it can change from episode to episode. It's so bizarre because they use some of those Showa monsters, and they are just some of the goofiest, silliest looking things. Like everything about them is too big. They don't look form fitting at all. That's exactly what I was thinking of.
M, I believe his name was. And he's in space, and he should stay there and never come back, because that is probably one of the most egregious suits I've ever seen in anything.
So it's silly.
It's not silly. It's just
it's silly. Awful. It's dumb. It's awful. It's all those synonyms.
It's really bad, because I find no humor in it. I just don't want to look at it when it comes on screen.
I don't blame you.
On the other hand, you have something like Ella King, which I think is classic. Yeah. But it's also really well designed. It's also where we got Pikachu and Raichu. So I really love Ella King. A modern one. Grieza. From X.
I was also going to say some of the monsters from... there's a couple monster designs in Trigger that I think are really good. Like, some of the... When it comes to Ultraman, sometimes you can get like a great-looking, just giant, reptilian... There's a
monstrosity.
Monstrosity. I was going to say like Space Godzilla-looking monsters.
Spacezilla.
Well, Space Godzilla, that's his name.
Yeah, it's right next to Space Australia. Go Space Dingus.
For only 69 cents, you can get this mess.
But yeah. You're getting something like really good ones.
You're talking about the one from the end of X, right?
Yes, the one that was terrifying.
The one that it was the way it looked, and the way it moved, and the way it sounded.
It was just like everything about this is setting all of my nerves on fire.
It was very unsettling.
It was so good though, because it was so unsettling, and it made me want everything to stop, but it didn't, and I was appreciative.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Garo. The regular horror designs.
The basic horror, like the kind of like Donnie Darko, but designed by an edgy teenager.
Yeah. I still like them.
I do.
I like the cyber ones that they use in VR too.
I agree.
They were really weird, and I really appreciated that.
Again, like it's distinctive. I look at it, I'm like, oh, that's from Garo. You can instantly tell that a monster is from Garo because
it has giant boobs.
That helps sometimes, yes. Some of the monsters in Garo, yeah, they're just like it's the Dark Souls approach where it's like top half of a naked lady, bottom half is like a scorpion or whatnot.
Bottom half is from the Scorpion King. No, the Mummy Returns.
I know what you're talking about. It's still the Scorpion King, but oh no.
I just picture The Rock coming on the set today. All right, what do you want me to do? Well,
he wasn't on set that day.
He was never on set. Actually.
I don't know that he was on set for that.
I don't know he was on set at all when they were designing that thing. It's like we took a picture.
We have a picture of him that's blurry and out of focus. Let's use that.
In Garo, it's like it's really eldritch in some ways. Like you have the twisted upside down head, or like the head splitting and something bursting out of it. And this is just all in the design, not just the monster emerging.
It'll be like a big bug, but like it'll be like really spiky and very bony.
Yeah,
and it'll have like very gaunt features.
And I love it. Mm-hmm. Garo does really well on its more horror inspired villains.
No pun intended.
Yeah. One of my favorite designs, just in Sentai, really, the Geki Ranger, like the ones that they fight, the Renshi. I really liked how pretty much every single one of them were more humanoid shaped, but they took aspects of their martial arts into the design of the actual monster itself. So it's like, if it's something like the bear one, he's really big and he's just really strong, and he, with the way he fights, it really shows that he just goes forward. But it's just like you have something like the scorpion one and the jellyfish lady, who are a lot more slim, but they're faster. And I really love how they showcase that in the way that they design. Like they took that motif, just like they did with W. They took the theme of what they were doing, or the motif of what they were doing, and putting that into the suit and making it an echo of the thing that they're known for. I love that.
Good stuff.
Do we have any bad ones?
It's not so much that they're bad, it's that a lot of them are just unmemorable.
That's
a lot of monsters. It's like they show up and you're like, oh, there it is. Yep, that's a monster. And then we move on. As far as ones that jump out as being like really bad, Jetman. Yeah, Jetman jumps out because it's like they tried to do the pick a motif and stick with it, but the suits are just not well designed.
Yeah,
and they just look stupid.
Yeah, look a little bit too bulky. A lot of them also the weak ones too. Now that you mentioned it, really, we love Jetman. Just the show as a whole.
Jetman's a great show. Just Monsters is one of its weak points.
Not great. We didn't talk about Tokucast at all, especially the generals. Just how they're designed. Yeah. They're supposed to represent...
The generals and like the big bads, they look great. But
they're supposed to represent nobility.
Yes.
And they do.
Your count, your general, your baroness, whatnot.
And your baron and stuff like that. But we've had some bad ones. I'm honestly going to say that ant-looking monster, the general from Gosager, from that first arc.
Okay.
It was too bulky for its own good. And it was supposed to do a lot of up-close fighting.
I didn't expect you to pick one singular monster, but alright.
It stuck out to me because I hated its voice in Megaforce. Oh. Because they all sounded the same. Yeah, pretty much. But it's just like, I feel like if you're going to have a monster design or something like that, and this could be a case of it was chosen later for this role, but when you have something like Geki Ranger that came out just a couple of years before and everything was sort of really planned out with this monster design, it seemed, you get something like this little ant monster and it's too big to be close quarters fighting. It basically ends up becoming an Ultraman issue there, where, as we talked about in our fights video, if I don't put this one out a second, it's just like, you can't really do as much against this because you're just.
We just kind of have to awkwardly bump up against each other because the guy in the bigger suit can't articulate his movements at all.
You're dealing with too much bulk, and it doesn't help anything.
And because that's why they tend to get like projectile attacks with it's like an atomic breath or whatnot.
Yeah,
lasers and lasers or something like that.
He's charging his laser. But yeah, yeah. Let us know what your favorite monster designs are in the comments below.
Please do.
what are some ones that you want to see done in the future? I would love to see another martial art. I just want to see another martial arts scene Sentai. We have not had one since Geki Ranger.
Since Geki, yeah.
And I would love to have that back again. I feel like you could do a lot more with that than vehicle number 4. But yeah, don't forget to join us all the things, and we'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for watching.